It is it's truly wonderful. It's wonderful to be here. It's sort of amazing to see all of you together. There's clearly enough people in this room, and I have a feeling there's enough energy in this room to truly change the world. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is changing the world. You changing the world. As you heard, I'm the Executive Director of Amnesty International USA. Amnesty International is a global movement. It's made up of about 3 million activists around the world. Many of them just like you. In fact, I hope some of you in this room are members of Amnesty International. Good. And all of them working as hard as they can with one goal, which is to make the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that you just saw in that wonderful video that was shown, to make that a reality for every man, woman, and child on our planet. That's our purpose. And my job, when I speak to any audience, but especially when I speak to an audience of young people, is to persuade you to make the case that you can change the world in exactly that way. And I'm very glad to be speaking at this particular moment in history, because convincing you that young people can change the world has become a lot easier in recent weeks. I don't have to give you a history lesson. I don't have to cite documents or academic studies. All I have to do is to ask you to turn on your televisions or turn on your internet or your laptop or go to YouTube and take a look at the young people in Tunisia and Egypt and now Bahrain and Yemen and Libya who are risking their lives and changing the world as we speak. Risking their lives, and in some cases, as we just learned today, they are giving their lives in order that we can have a very different world. But already, we have seen the people of Tunisia and the people of Egypt, and largely young people in Tunisia and young people in Egypt, do what nobody thought was possible: overthrow two brutal dictators of our world. Supposed to be able to do that. If they had listened to all of the experts and all of the pundits on our television and our politicians and all of the people in bureaucracies all over the globe, they would have been told, you can't do that. I was in a meeting in December with the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who told us that change in Egypt was impossible. Was not going to happen. That was in December she told us that. She said, you can't move Mubarak. He won't budge. Public pressure makes it even worse. And civil society in Egypt has no power whatsoever to make a difference. And all I can say now, in February, is thank God the young people of Egypt were not listening to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The young people of Tunisia, who had already overthrown their dictator. And the question they asked was not why are they doing that? The question they asked was why not? Why not us? Why couldn't we be free and have lives of dignity? And then they went out to do exactly what they had seen the people of Tunisia do. Now, that's pretty amazing. And you know, the kind of struggle that's going on right now, every one of those struggles in each individual country is in its own way unique. and special. But none of them are unprecedented. If you do look back in history, not way back in history, the history that I've lived, my own lifetime, you could have seen that time and time and time again, in places like Santiago, Moscow, or Manila, or Prague and Warsaw, or Tiananmen Square in China, or Johannesburg, or even Montgomery, Alabama, where a 26-year-old pastor named Martin Luther King Jr. began what was to become what he would later call a human rights revolution. What all of those struggles had in common was that in every single one of them, on the front lines were young people. Young people who were acting while they were young, not waiting to get their degrees, not waiting to become experts, not waiting to rise up the hierarchy in some organization. They were acting right then and now to change the world. That's what you would have seen in every one of those struggles. Of course, things have changed. We just heard from Professor Negroponte some very good examples of how they've changed, because technology has made every struggle that takes place in any particular country more of a global struggle than ever was possible before. That's part of what's happening right now as we speak. That's why it's spreading so quickly from country to country to country. Because today, what's put on YouTube in Cairo can go immediately to YouTube's people watching, opening their laptop, opening their internet in the Netherlands, opening their internet in Colombia or Mexico, opening the internet in South Africa or Nigeria, opening their internet in Boston, Massachusetts, and they can see immediately what's going on, and they can then respond and take actions themselves. That's the kind of world we now live in. That's why the technological revolution that has just been discussed is so important, because it's become a new way to fight for human rights. And to make that fight not just a national fight, although it's important that it is a national fight, but a global fight. You know, if you look out on the scenes in Tahrir Square in Cairo, and you looked around, you saw a lot of signs that were in English. Why were they in English? You know, they actually don't speak English. That's not the language in Egypt, as you know. They were in English because the people who were fighting for their dignity and freedom realized that they needed to support a people all over the globe if they were going to win their fight. And they particularly needed the support of the people who speak English in one of the most powerful countries in the world, the United States of America. That's why those signs were in English. Because they were reaching out to you and to me, the people here, not just to watch what they were doing, but to help them do it, to give them support. Because they knew that that could make all the difference in the world. The support they would get, the pressure that people would put on their own governments, whether they're European governments or governments in different parts of the world, and the support that people would do directly on the governments that were oppressing them, the governments of Egypt and Tunisia and other countries. That idea that the actions that are taken in one part of the world can have an effect, a direct effect, on the lives of people in another part of the world, that's the idea that gave birth to the organization that I'm representing here today, some 50 years ago, in 1961. That's an idea that occurred in a characteristic way to one person. He was a lawyer named Peter